Hi, and welcome to the session of Intro to SQL using MySQL Database, offered to you by the Clifton Park Half Moon Library. My name is Scott Bartow, and I am hoping that from the last session, the first session, you were able to download the MySQL or MySQL server and server database. And then you were able to download the sample database and then be able to load up the sample database into your version of MySQL. And if you were able to do that, you should be able to see what I see on my screen, or what you see on my screen, which is your MySQL Workbench. So if you were able to load up the database, you should be able to go into MySQL Workbench. If you see up in the upper left-hand corner of my screen, and you should be able to also in the over to the left, in the left nav under schemas. So you can click on Navigator, or you can click on schemas. Well, schemas are under Navigator. So you should have this classic models database loaded. And so if I click on the arrow, it brings up all the tables from that sample database that you loaded from the first session of our class. And the tables include customers, employees, offices, order details, orders, payments, product lines, and products. So we'll be working with these tables today in the session. And so why don't we get started? As I demonstrate different commands in SQL, I'll show you how to use the MySQL database tool, this workbench, to be able to access tables and be able to query the data, and you'll be able to see the results of our queries that we're going to create using SQL. And remember, SQL stands for Structured Query Language. And the first command that we're going to be working with is we're going to work on how to query the data. And so to query the data in a database, you want to use the select statement. And let's say, so the simple select statement will allow you to query the data from a single table. All right, so we're going to show you how to use that the select statement. And so it allows you to read information from one or more tables. I'm going to get rid of this. So when you're using the MySQL or the MySQL Workbench, you can see where my cursor is. This is a screen where you enter in SQL commands to access the tables in your database. All right. So right now we're working with the classic models database. And if I'm going to do a SQL statement, why don't I just I will do select. Now in this workbench, you can see I started to type in, I typed in the letter S and then E, and see it brings up a couple of items that you can select, a couple of commands, either select or set. If I double click on select, it'll type it in, it'll populate it for me. Otherwise, you can just type in the word select, space, and then let's say select. If I If I use the asterisk, it will select all the different columns from the tables that I'm selecting from, that I'm querying the data from. So if I do select asterisk, and then I'm going to use the table. If you look over into the left under tables, I'm going to grab information from I'm going to grab from products, right? From the products table on the very bottom here. So select all from. You need the keyword from, and then you have to list the tables that you want. So select asterisk from, and then I am going to use the products table. All right. And then just put a semicolon. Now to run this, I want to, right above the word select, I have like a lightning bolt. And if you highlight it, it says execute the selected, execute the selected portion of the script or everything if there is no selection. All right, so select all. And products, limit, error, no database selected. Oh, okay. And when you're using the MySQL database, you have to name the databases from. So I have to put classic models dot, and then the table name. And you see how like when I did it that way, then all these tables came up, and I can just choose the one I want, which is products. So I'll double click on products at the bottom, and it populates the table name products. All right, so now I'm going to try the lightning bolt. You have an error in your SQL syntax, set manual. So I have select that from classic models products. So it doesn't seem to like that. If you look down below, under my text editing portion of the workbench, you can see when I ran it the second time, it threw an error. Error code 1064. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual if it corresponds. What's this? So it doesn't like products. You can see the keywords select and from are highlighted. Possibly it doesn't like the asterisk. Select. Let me just try something here. So MySQL does not like the select asterisk. Asterisk would choose all the columns of the table that you've specified. So what I did was using the products table, I chose one of the columns. I called it that they call product name. So I have select product name from classic models.products, semicolon. And then down below, when I run this, I'll run it again. I click on the lightning bolt, and down below, it says it lists my it lists in the result output section. It lists my SQL, and it tells me it returns 110 rows. And then here in the result grid for product name, it gives the year of the car or the vehicle, and then it tells like the first record is 1969 Harley Davidson Ultimate Chopper, and then the next one is 1952 Alpine Renault 1300. So these are all the products in our database table. Because remember, our database table is classic models, which means, classic vehicles. That's the business that this database is in. So let's, first I'm going to hit enter, and let's break down this select statement, this querying statement in SQL. So let's see, first you want to start with the keyword select, all right? And I guess a best practice is to capitalize the keywords. So I'm gonna do that. I put it in lowercase. Your query will still run if you have everything in lowercase or upper and lowercase. But as a best practice, why don't we make the keywords in SQL for MySQL, let's make them capitalized. SQLECT. All right, and the other keyword in our statement is the from. So I'll make that capitalized. And you see how, like, in our workbench, the keywords are like in a shade of blue. And the non-keywords are in black. All right, so first we have the keyword select, and followed by a space, and then followed by a column name, or as many column names as you want. So I have product name, but I can do let's see, why don't I do the product code first? So I'll do lowercase product, and you see how IntelliSense comes up, and you've got the column product code right here. So I double click on it. All right, and then it's followed by a comma, and then you have product name. Product name. There we go. All right. So this select is going to have, it's going to list the data for 2 columns of the table products. So now on the next line, I have the keyword from, and then what follows after that, you have from, space, and then you have the database name, dot, and then whatever table you want. So we're pulling this information from this products table, and then you end your SQL statement with a semicolon. Right, so if I run this again, I'll do a run. Now I have in my result grid in the middle here, right here, I have this product code first, and notice how, like, in the result grid, you have a product code, you have the name of the column, so you have product code, and then you have product name, and so in your select statement, however you list the column names is how they're going to come out in the result grid. So if I flip-flop this, so I'll do a cut, and I'll put product name first, comma, followed by product code, and I'll get rid of the comma on the end here. All right, so if I run this now, the result grid is going to be product name followed by product code. So let's see that. Product name, product code. You see this in the result grid. All right. All right, what else? And you always end your statements in SQL with a semicolon. The semicolon is a statement delimiter. It specifies the end of the statement. If you have 2 or more statements, you use the semicolon to separate them so that MySQL will execute each statement individually. So, for example, what if I enter? What if I copy this? And have another select. This time I'm going to select some other field column. Why don't I do product? How about I'll do buy price, right? And IntelliSense says, so off to for IntelliSense, off to the left it says COLN with a background of like a brownish color. So COLN is the column, and then you have the actual column name, buy price. So I'll double click on it and it populates it in my select statement. So now I have two select statements. And so it's very important to have the semicolon end the first statement and also the second statement in case there's statements that are preceding the second one. So now I'm going to run this. Let's see what happens. And it's running. Let's see. Product code, product name, buy price. So let's try this. If I highlight it and run it, it gives me a buy price. And if I highlight the first statement and run it, then it gives me the product name and product code. All right, so just keep in mind that the semicolon marks the end of your SQL statement. All right. And we want to have the keywords in capitals. All right, so but what if we wanted to have more than one tables? So that has 8 columns. All right. Now let's what happened. So if you want to retrieve the data from all the columns, so if we stick with this products table, the asterisk is allowed. So I'm going to get rid of this second query, but so if I want to change this one to not only select the product name and product code, but I want to select all the columns from my table, I would use the asterisk. So I'll delete that. I'll use shift asterisk, and I'll give that a run. See what happens. Let's see down in my output. Select asterisk. There it is. Okay. So if you look in the result grid, it's got each column from the products table, and it's organized by whatever column is listed first in the table. So if you look over to the left, the MySQL Workbench, up under schemas, we have the classic models database, and when you click on that, you get the tables, and you click, drill deeper into the tables. It gives you all the different tables within that database, right? And then if we drill deep into the products table, like I did here, if I click on the arrow, it lists all the columns of that table. All right. So when I did the select asterisk from classic models.products, semicolon, then it listed all these columns for that table. All right. So that's how you list everything within the table. So the select asterisk is often called the select star or select all, since you select all the data from the table. It's a good practice to use the select star for ad hoc queries only. If you embed select statement in your code, whether you're using Java, PHP, Python, Node.js, you would want to explicitly specify the name of the columns from which you want to get the data, because of the following reasons. So if you in an actual program, if you were to do the select star, select asterisk, like I've done here, here are some of the problems you could run into. It returns data from the columns that you may not use. So let's see. So here are the three reasons why you don't want to use select star when you include it into your code. You just want to use select star when you're doing a quick ad hoc query of your database. So number one reason is the select star returns data from columns you may not be using in your program. And so it produces unnecessary processing, which can be very wasteful and can slow your system down. Number two, when you don't use the select star and you explicitly specify column names, the result set is going to be very predictable and easier to manage. And lastly, using the select star may expose sensitive information that you don't want exposed to unauthorized users. So just keep in mind, when you're using select asterisk, use it just for ad hoc queries. All right, so that's it for the select statement. Let's move on to sorting data. Sorting data. So for sorting data, we're going to do the order by command. And that's it. So when you use the select statement to query data from the table, the result set is not sorted. All right, so if you look at the, we have our select statement here. And so this data is not sorted by anything. So what we use to sort the data, and remember the semicolon comes at the end of your SQL statement. So I'm moving that semicolon down to the bottom, down to a line underneath. And I'm going to add the order by command. All right. So since this is a keyword, we want to capitalize order by, order space by. Okay. And now we want to get rid of the select all. So why don't we go back to having a few columns that we're going to select. So if I do product, oops, I want to be lowercase. So product, how about we do code, and then the product line. And once you get familiar with using IntelliSense for the MySQL in the MySQL Workbench, it's very easy to whip together different SQL commands. And why don't we do one more column? And how about, let's see, if you look down in the result grid, you can hit the right arrow, and you can show the rest of my data, different columns I have. So why don't we do product description? Product and descriptions right here. All right, so now we're going to do order by. So we have select, product code, product line, product description. I'm going to order by, why don't we do by product line? Actually, let's do product code. The product code, and I don't know if you noticed, but off to the left of the select, the word select, there was like a red X, and that's because I hadn't put in any column name after the keyword order space by. So if I take it out, you'll probably see the red X. All right, and I don't think it tells me what the error is, but I'll put my product code back in, and the red X goes away. So why don't I run this? So I click on the lightning bolt in the toolbar, and it generates a 3-column query result grid. So I've got product code, product line, product description. Now product code should be in descending order. Let's say. Yeah, the default for order by is ascending. So if you don't specify ASC for ascending or DSC for descending, you're going to get your information ordered by ascending order by the column that you've included in your code for order by. So my product codes, if you look at the result grid, they should be in ascending order. So I've got an S10 underscore 1678, S10 underscore 1949, S10 2016, 4698, 4757. So those are in order. Now, what if you want to sort by more than one column? So say I want to sort by what if I wanted to sort by product line? Because it looks like our data for product line are motorcycles, classic cars, trucks and buses, and then vintage cars. So why don't we sort by that first? So the first column that you include after the word order by, the words order by, is the one that will be sorted first. So if I do product line, I hit enter, so I've got product line, and then if I want to do another column, so by product line, I want to sort by product line first, and then within product line, I want to sort by the product code. So product code, all right. And I'll hit the lightning bolt. All right, so now I have the first product line is classic cars. So if you look at the result grid that I have, I've got all classic cars first, and within classic cars, I should have a product code sorted. So I've got, for the first record is S10 1949. Then I've got S10 4757, 4962, and then it goes to S12 1099, S12 1108. Yep. So that's That's sorted in an ascending order. Remember, ascending is the default when you're using the order by. Now, if you want to specify, so if I'm gonna just have the one column product line. So I'm gonna get rid of product code. All right, so we're just going to sort by order line. I mean product line. And you see, when product line is sorted ascending, you have classic cars. Now I can show you the keyword for ascending, which is ASC. All right, so if I run this query, I should have the same query, the same product line query, product line sorting in my query. So I hit enter, and now product line is sorted by classic cars. And then motorcycles, planes, right? So you got C for cars, M for motorcycles, P for planes, S for ships. Wow, they have a lot of stuff. T for trains. So you can see how it's sorted alphabetically in ascending order. Now, if I wanted to sort it by descending order, so I'll go to the top. So the top of my result grid is just classic. It starts with classic cars. But if I change the order to DESC from ASC, so now it's DESC stands for descending. If I run the query this time, I should start, my record should start with vintage cars. So it starts with a V. And let's cursor down in our result set, and after vintage cars, I have trucks and something. Now, if you simply, just like in SL, if you've used SL before, if you just click on the line in between two different column headings, you can scroll over, and it makes the product line field bigger, so you can see what the whole verbiage is in that column in the result set. So the first records are vintage cars. The second are trucks and buses, and then the next one's trains. The next one's ships, planes, probably motorcycles, classic cars. All right. So that's how you use the order by to sort your data. And I showed you how to use where you can do an order by for multiple columns, right? The first column you list, it'll sort by first, and then within that result set, it'll sort by the next column, and then the next column. You can have pretty much as many columns as you want. More than two, and it starts getting a little bit confusing. So I don't really recommend it. All right. And that's about it for sorting your data. We have multiple columns. One thing with multiple columns, though, you can maybe I should take a step back. When you're writing out your code, this is fine. But you are able to have multiple columns. Like I can have product line descending, and then I can do a comma, and if I want product code to be ascending, I can do that. ASC. All right. So you can have descending for one column, and then for another column you can have ascending. Or you can make this descending. It's up to you. But just by using the keywords DESC for descending and ASC for ascending, you're able to sort your data pretty well. Now, in the result set, we talked about writing SQL using order by to sort your data. But in the result grid, one thing you can do is you can sort specific columns by simply clicking on the column. So if you look at my result grid, I've got product code, that column, or I've got product line, right? And you see how it's all not sorted. So if I click on product line on the heading, it sorts it, right? It sorted it, let's say, ascending. If I click on it again, it will sort it descending. So now I'm starting with V for vintage cars, right? That's the last product line in the list. If I click on it again, it'll sort it ascending. And now the first record starts with classic cars, which is the first product line ascending. So there's a way to sort the data in your result set just by clicking on the heading of the column. And so just a little additional information about MySQL. Now, why don't we move on to filtering the data. Hold on. So before we move on to filtering data, I discovered one more thing about sorting data using MySQL. So suppose, let's say, I'm going to get rid of my SQL statement. And we're going to use, all right, so, all right, suppose we want to sort the sales orders based on their statuses in a set order that you have. All right, so to do this, you want to use the field function to map each order status to a number and to sort the result by the result of the field function. So let's say the way to do this is we're going to use the orders. Where's orders? Oh, that's in products. We're going to use the orders table. So if you look over underneath schemas off to the left, in the left nav, you see under tables, I have orders. So I'll click on the arrow for orders, right? If I double click, down below it shows you what columns are in the orders table. You have order number, order date, required date, ship date, status, comments, and customer number. Do you see that just below where I clicked on the arrow for the orders table? Under the information tab. So what we're dealing with is we want to have a set order. We don't want just the column status to be either ascending or descending. We want it to be in the order that we want it to be sorted, the data to be sorted. So what we would do is we would start with uppercase select, okay, space, and we're going to do order number, comma, and we're going to also select the status. All right, and then we're going to do uppercase from, space, and then the table name, which in this case is classic models, is the schema, dot, and then the table name is going to be orders. Okay, hit enter, and then we're going to do order by, capital letters, order by, space by. And then I'm going to indent. Hit tab once to indent. And then I'm going to do in capital letters field, the word field. Field, parenthesis. So field is a function. And here we're going to do the column name status in lowercase. So status, comma, hit enter, and then hit tab again. So indented under the field, the function name. And here we're gonna need single quote. So single quote in space process, single quote, comma, and the next line we're gonna do single quote on hold, single quote, comma, and then canceled. Query, here we go. Canceled. And resolved. Dispute. Oops. Something happened. Disputed. You see how these aren't in alphabetical order? They're in the order that I want them to be in. I want the data to be returned in. And the last one's going to be shipped. So single quote, shipped, quote. And you don't need a comma for the last item. And you'll do a parenthesis. Finish our statement always with a semicolon. All right. So this is pretty big. Let me shrink down. Let's see the bottom window. You can shrink down your windows by hovering over them and then waiting for the cross, and then you can move them up or down to make the window bigger or smaller. All right. All right. So can you see? I'll shrink down the result grid a little bit. All right. So here's my whole SQL up under the query. We have a query one tab. All right. So I have select order number, comma, status. So we have two columns I'm selecting from the classic models schema dot orders. So classic models database with the orders dot orders is for the table name. And then we're doing order by, and then we're doing field, which is a function. And then in parentheses, you start with the field, the column name, status, comma, and then in single quotes, you put the different items, different types of statuses in the order that you want. So I wanted to come out in process first, then on hold, then canceled, resolved, disputed, and finally shipped. All right. Now, if I just done an order by for status, it would have come out ascending. It would have come out canceled, and then disputed, and then in process, on hold, resolved, and shipped. So this is just a way to customize your sort for your query. All right. So I'm going to run this. Okay. So the first status I wanted to come out was in process, and that's what I have. The next one is on hold, and that's what I have. And if you click down, then next one's canceled, resolved, disputed, and shipped. All right. So that's the final bit about using the order by and how you can, different ways on how you can sort your data. so it comes out the way you want it, and the way it is that's most readable for the user. All right, so now let's move on to filtering data, which is incredibly important. All right. So the first statement you want to learn about when you're filtering data is going to be the where clause. All right. So let's talk about the where clause first. All right. The where clause allows you to specify a search condition for the rows returned by a query. The following shows, all right, so we're going to I'm going to get rid of the order by. Okay, so we have select, order numbers, comma status. All right, so the where clause. All right, so let's go on to the where. Okay. So for the where clause, let's use a different table. So I'm going to change orders to employees. And let's say, what do I want to select? So in the employee table, there is no order number or status column. So what I want to do is I want to grab the last name, last name, there it is, column last name. So double click, comma, and then I want the first name. I want the column first name, comma, and find the job title. All right. So I want those three columns. I want to select those three for my query. So select last name, comma, first name, comma, job title. And then I'm from the classic models.employees table. And then the next thing we want to do, capitalize, we want the word where. Space. All right, so where, I want to pick out only people with a job title equal to sales space rep. So where job title equal single quote sales space rep single quote, and then you have to end your SQL statement with a semicolon. All right, so let's run this guy. True. All right, so if you look at my result grid, I'm going to move it up a little bit so you can see more of it. I've got last name, first name, job title are my headings. And I'm only displaying people with a job title of sales rep. So if I look down my query, the only job titles you're going to see are sales rep. All right, and it lists for every employee with a job title of sales rep, it's going to list out their last name and first name. All right. So that's our first example using the where clause. All right, now you also want to understand how to use the and the or statements. And also the not, okay? So when you're dealing with your where clause, your search condition is a combination of one or more predicates using the logical operator and, or not, and not. In MySQL, a predicate is a Boolean expression that evaluates the true, false, or unknown. All right, so going back to learning about Python, learning JavaScript, a Boolean is either true, false, or in this case, unknown. All right, so Boolean really is true or false. That's what you have to remember. All right, so when we're using and or not, you have to understand if it's true, it will present the data, but if it's not true, it's not going to include those records in the data. So let's see an example of using like the and. All right, so we've got our where clause saying job title, where job title equals sales rep. I want to display those records. All right, but now if we have an and, capital A and D, hit enter. What if we have an office code equal to 1? And 1 is a number, so it doesn't need the single quote. All right, so anybody who's got a job title of sales rep and has an office code of 1 will get displayed. All right, so right down here we have 13 employees. So we have 13 records listed in our current query. But now that we've added an and for office code equals 1, we should have less. And let's see. Lightning bolt it, and yeah, we're down to 2. That's because the office code was only 1 before. So let's say if this works. So why don't I put? I'm bringing my I'm making my query back to the way it was before I added the and. And why don't I put, so I have job title, I'm going to put office code in here in my select. Office code. All right, so when I run this, where job title equals sales rep, and see I've got office code 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 6. If I click on my result grid office code heading, it should display them. Yeah. So now I sorted my results by office code. But so now if I uncomment out the and the office code equals 1, you should see that we should only have Leslie Jennings and Leslie Thompson, these first 2 sales reps. If you look in the result grid, they're the only 2 that have an office code of 1, right? Now, if I run this query with the and the office code equals 1, I get just 2 records returned. Now, if I run the query with office code equals 4, I think there were 4 records that should be displayed. Yep, 4. All right, so that's how you use and. Now remember, when you're using the and operator, job title equals sales, in our example, job title equals sales rep has to be true, and office code equals 4 has to be true. If I'm using or, so if I change the and to an or, then job title equals sales rep. If that's true, it's going to display all those records. Or if office code equals 4, it's going to display all those records. So now we might see when it was just sales rep, right? We know we have office code 4, and these are sales reps. Let's see. We might have a whole bunch of records now. Yeah, now we have 18 employees because Because when you use or, anybody who is a sales rep is going to get displayed. Anybody who has an office code of 4 is going to get displayed. So if you look at the very first record for Jared Bondor, they have a job title of Sale Manager EMEA. But so they're not a sales rep, but they do have the office code of 4. So when you're using or, it's either if either statement is true, you want to display those records, and that's what it's done. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about for today, that's part of filtering the data. There's more to discuss when it comes to filtering data, because it's one of the most important things you're going to do with SQL is be able to filter out the data you want and be able to display it the way you want also. So what I want to talk about is the keyword between. So if I have, let's say, why don't we keep our select? So we have last name, first name, and we'll just have job. We'll have office code. I'm sorry. So office code. All right. So from the employees table, the classic models database dot employees table, where, and here's where we're going to want. We don't want the job title any longer. So let's get rid of this stuff. So where the column office code, and then capital letters, we're going to use the keyword between. Oops, I want to capitalize BETWEN. Okay, so we have between, and I want it to be between. Let's just do 1, and then the keyword and 3. All right, so that should be any off, and then always want to finish our statement with a semicolon. All right, and actually, why don't we add an order by? Oops. Order space by space, and we're gonna order it by office code. That's office code, and sorry, the where clause, the column is office code. So column, okay, so where office code, the column office code is between 1 and 3, and then we're going to order it by office code. All right, so let's run it. Okay, and if you look down in the result grid, it says employees 19. All right, so there's 19 people who have office codes either 1, 2, or 3. And that's what you get when you say between 1 and 3. All right. So let's just what if we said between 2 and 5. Let's see how much bigger this grows. Now we have 20 employees, right? And if you look at the first record in the result set, you can, well, we're ordering by office code, right? So it's going to display office codes of equal to 2 first, and then 3, then 4, then 5. And that's all we have. We don't have office code equal to 1. We don't have office code equal to 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. All right, so it's just between 2 and 5. So using the between in combination with and, you can filter out your data a little bit farther. All right, so that's it for session 2. We went over using the MySQL Workbench tool, getting a little bit familiar with this, how to run things, how to see what tables are in our database that we're using, our sample database, what columns are in those tables. We learned about the select statement. We learned about the from statement, the order by to be able to sort the data. So the select is used for querying the data. Order by is used for sorting the data, and then the where clause in combination with using between and or how to filter the data. All right, so these are really the fundamental parts of SQL that I hope you understand, and I'll be putting a couple of challenges out on the Google Classroom for you to do before next week. And thanks a lot for joining me.